Welcome, friends! Hello! Welcome to Pro Tips from the Icebox. I'm your host, Scott Casella. Come along with me as we do a deep dive into unsupported, month-long winter camping trips. And I'm going to show you everything that I do to get ready for this trip. As I sit here recording this right now, I've got less than 1 week until I leave. I'm going to do a 30-day Colorado River trip. And I am going to go through what I'm referring to henceforth as the master list. And the link is going to be up in a minute. As of right now, YouTube won't let me put a link on this video, so I'm just going to display the link, and you'll have to type it in manually to get to this list. It's available as a download, as a PDF. You're free to print it off and write on it and use it as you'd like. I'd like to make it available as a CSV file in the future so people can manipulate it. I also have the list broken out on the website there so that you can click on some of the links if you want to just take a look at some of the gear that I'm talking about. Some housekeeping and some disclaimers. I'm not stating myself as an expert. I am no Tom Martin, and I don't know the ins and outs of everything. I did the trip for the first time a few years back. I was invited by a man named Brian Burns. Brian is a close friend and mentor to me. I'm going to be referring to him a lot in this video series. And since knowing Brian, I have gone down the canyon now 4 times, 4 30-day trips, and I'm packing for my 5th 30-day trip right now. So I have done this a couple times. All those are in the past. This will be my 5th trip in 6 years. So I've done this every year for the past few years, which has led to this list, which has led to me saying, hey, I'm just going to share what I've learned packing for this so many times in the past couple of years, because I've got it down to, I've made a study of it, I guess, and that's what I'm sharing here. So you're going to print out the list, please, if you're interested in coming along with me on this journey. And as I pack over the next week, I'm going to just record myself packing, and then I'm going to do voiceovers of the packing process and explain why I put what with what and why I have things grouped the way that I do. You do not need to do most of what I'm going to talk about in the coming video series. If you are interested in doing this and you want a lot off of your plate, there are several reputable outfitters in the area, and you can rent yourself a raft with most of the gear and absolutely all of the food. If you want to outsource your food prep and your equipment, all you really need to do is just check out what the personal gear segment is, and that'll get you down to a minimal kit, which is nice. The expedition planning that I'm doing here is for, I have my own equipment, I'm doing all of my own food, and I'm going to introduce this ethos, which I'm referring to as the Brian Burns ethos. Again, my good friend Brian. On Brian's trips, we do not participate in a group kitchen. And here's a photo of Brian inside of his personal tent with a small personal kitchen. And this is the style of camping we're going to be looking at. And this is contrary to a lot of rafting trips and has a social element, which is a consideration as well. A lot of rafting trips, people will go and they'll do one big kitchen. So you can set up a whole big kitchen and take turns cooking. And there are advantages to that. There is an economy of scale, and there is a distribution of labor, which is nice. And the social element, I think, is the largest draw to that style of camping, is everyone's gathered around the central kitchen, and the cooking is great. The drawbacks to the central group kitchen are menu control. If there's an individual with dietary considerations or someone else who just takes over on the menu, the rest of the group is subject to that individual's choices in food. I'm going to be discussing what I eat on this trip, and that is my decision, right? I have personal control over what I eat this way. Another big problem with group kitchens is, of course, contamination issues, the norovirus. It just takes one drunken rafter who doesn't quite wash their hands, and it can really change the way that the trip is going. So if you do separate little small camp kitchens, right, you isolate the different food sources and preparation areas, and if by chance somebody was to get sick, the rest of the group doesn't have to fall in turn. So we're going to be looking at my kitchen, which is a one-man kitchen, and I'll show a little bit of what Brian does. I am, of course, not insinuating that you will be safe or that this is a safe or reasonable activity or way of planning. I take zero responsibility for anything that you do with this information. This is just me packing for a camping trip, so I am by no means taking any legal responsibility for you, your party, your group, your kitchen, your planning. Zero liability. By watching this video, you are understanding that I'm just some guy explaining what I've done, and you're on your own. Most of this footage that I'm going to be showing, I'm filming myself with my GoPro camera. There are a couple of shots in here that I have taken from people who have been on trips that I've been on. I have permission, and I will do a roster of credit for everyone that I've ever been on a trip with at the end of the last video. The shot you're looking at here, this is the Little Colorado confluence with the main Colorado. This is an absolutely stunning spot. It is an area of controversy at the moment, and it is really, really special to be down there. So this is a great shot I got a couple of years ago. And with that, here we go. Come with me on this trip. I hope that everything in here is interesting to you, and welcome to my series, Pro Tips from the Icebox.
Grand Canyon, Colorado River.
All right, this is the intro, and we are going to be looking at the list. Welcome to the list. You're going to need to follow this URL. You have to manually type it in, and I'll read it for you. Here it is, www.pdxraft.com/expedition-gear-list. So pdxraft.com/expedition-gear-list. And while you are looking through that site, print it off and come on back. I'm going to have you listening to my good friend Stan tell you first-timers what this experience is going to be like. And after Stan is done speaking, we'll take a quick overview at the list, and then in the following and subsequent episodes, we'll dive into the piece by piece. Here's Stan.
Okay. Well, Scott and Steve here have asked me to give a commentary on the narrative of going down the Grand Canyon and what it's like. I'm Stan Mersgott from Spokane, Washington, and I'm a veteran now of 4 tours of the Grand Canyon. I've put on over 1,000 miles on this river and over 100 days. I've been out in the winter on each 4 trips in 2010, 2011, 2013, and now 2015. So, 4.5 million people a year come and see the Grand Canyon, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. But only 25,000 of them go down the river, as we did on this trip, and most of those with commercial outfitters. It's just the rare few who can have it as their own experience on a private trip, as we did. And what a great trip it was. So you might ask yourself, what does it take to do this? Well, here is my explanation for those considering doing it without an outfitter. Imagine that you live in a 2nd floor apartment, 1 room. Okay, you get up early in the morning. You pack up your refrigerator, your food, your bedding, your clothing, and all the equipment you'll need, rain gear, cold weather gear, etc. You take it downstairs to the 1st floor, out on the street, and you load all this into a hand cart, which you'll probably overload. We're talking about maybe 300-400 pounds of equipment. Then you push this hand cart anywhere from 10 to 20 miles across town. You stop at another apartment. You take everything out of the cart, you take it upstairs, and you set everything up in the next apartment. Complete. The kitchen, the bedding, the clothing, all the rest of the gear, what you need to cook. Go to sleep. And the next morning, you repeat the same process. You do this on a 30-day trip on the average of anywhere from 21 to 24 times. In order to not do this, which takes 3 hours on each movement, or 7 hours a day, you row to earn layover days, which are at a premium. That means you don't have to do any of that crap. You just stay in one place. So, if you think you're up for that, I would say make a Grand Canyon tour if you're lucky enough to get invited. It'll be an experience of a lifetime and one of the great natural wonders of the world. Thank you.
All right, that's Stan. By now, I'm hopeful that you will have printed out your list. I print out my list at the beginning of my packing process, and I fold it up, and I'm writing on it. I put check marks and dots, and I cross things out, and I write things, and I update things as I go. And before I get in the car, I look at all the little dots as I do them to make sure that I have everything. For some areas where there's a second person with you, I would do a dot on one side and a dot on the other, like for in the clothes section, for instance, to make sure everybody has everything. There's about 200 items on this list, and I can tell you that if you have every one of these 200 items, you will have a fine month out there. So, that is it for the intro episode. Come with me, if you care to the next, and we're going to just work our way through it. I'm Scott. This is the Pro Tip Series.